What's up, Utah Studies students? This is Mr. Kais. I'm coming to you from my classroom in a very lonely setting. No students, no smell of body odor and PE and bad food from the lunchroom. Nothing. Just me in my classroom all by myself. It's quite depressing. But we're all in the same boat. I'm sure you guys have played enough Minecraft and Fortnite and PUBG and PlayStation. And some of you have actually had to do some homework, but I'm sure you're all ready to come back to school. But that's not the reality. The reality is we're still living through this historical situation, this COVID-19 pandemic, and they will not let us gather in groups larger than 10. And in some states, if you're watching, are in a shelter in place where they can't actually leave. So I hope you're kind of watching what's going on. I hope you're listening to your parents and listening to the news and getting all this information, because you are living through a very historical situation. And I want you to understand, as someone who teaches history, who loves history, who has a background in history, this is important. This is important. Your children and your grandchildren will study this time in history. They'll study the Trump administration and how they handled the COVID-19 pandemic, this historical law bill that they just signed in with $2 trillion in debt relief, and not debt relief, but financial relief for U.S. citizens, is just very historical. But that's because what we do. That's what we talk about it here. We talk about history. Let's talk about Utah history. Seems like you guys are all doing pretty well for most part. The most part, everybody's getting their assignments in. This week, we're going to be talking about the proposed state of Deseret. So here we are. We are in Utah Studies on the homepage. Let's go to modules, and you guys will see this week's module, which is called, nope, not that one, this one, the Utah Territory. Now, if you click on the notes, this is what you're going to see. And we'll go ahead and just pop it up here. It's kind of ugly, right? A couple empty boxes. You got to click on it to see what's on there. We're going to talk about the proposed state of Deseret. Now, after the Mormons got to Utah, a year after arriving in Utah, something happened. The Mexican-American War ended, and interestingly enough, all the land north of the Rio Grande was given to the United States. That includes what we now know as Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, California is a big one, all given to the United States. Well, the Mormons, led by Brigham Young, decided, hey, let's pick up some of that land and call it the state of Deseret. Deseret meaning honeybee, okay, out of the Book of Mormon, a book that the Mormons have. They wanted to have a state. So they petitioned for a state. So first things first, though. Mexico gives the U.S. all the land north of the Rio Grande. The U.S. decides to divide that into territories. But the Mormons want their territory. Now, they want their territory to become a state. They didn't want to be a territory. And we'll talk about that in a moment, why they didn't want to be a territory. But they wanted to become a state. Look how big they wanted their state to be. It goes up into Oregon, into California, almost all of Nevada, a ton of Arizona, a little bit of New Mexico, a lot of Colorado, Wyoming, and some of Idaho. 9 states, people. Okay? They wanted their state, the state of Deseret, to be 9 different states. Can you imagine if Utah was that big? We'd be playing football all over the place. Okay? 9 different states. So they petitioned for statehood. Now, what does it mean to make a petition? They made a formal request. They wrote it up. They said, here, dear United States government, we propose that this area right here become the state of Deseret. Well, it was denied, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's talk about the advantages of being a state. This is why they wanted to be a state, not a territory. They wanted local control. They wanted Brigham Young and all his leaders to have control over what's going on in the state of Deseret. They also wanted to send representatives to Congress. Okay. And you're going to see you have an assignment where you're going to need to talk about the advantages of being a state. So make sure you're paying attention. They wanted to send representatives to Congress. Okay. They wanted to vote in Congress. But this is what got them in the end. The Mormon leaders chose themselves to be the leaders of this proposed state of Deseret. And Congress turned down that petition. They didn't want to give the Mormon leaders control of that area. Okay. Now, look up here. Like I said before, if you look, this is picture number 1. You can see all 9 of these states that were covered. But Congress denied their petition, unfortunately. Okay. But Utah still becomes a territory. Now, one of the things that stopped Utah from becoming a state was this is right before the Civil War, and they did not want to they didn't want to give the Union more slave states than free states, or more free states than slave states. You see down here, this map right here, all these dark green boxes are slave states in 1850. Okay. All the light green boxes are free states, and neither side wanted to give the other side one more than the other. And so what did they do? They listened to a guy named Henry Clay, who from Kentucky decided to propose a compromise, which we now know is the Compromise of 1850. What they did is they allowed California to enter the Union as a free state. You can see that they're the light green. They created Utah and the New Mexico territories and left it like that. Okay, they did not allow Utah to become a state, and that really made everybody in Utah sad. Now, as you can see the notes right here, I should have put those on while I was talking. Here's the big one. Utah does not become a state until 1896, 46 years later. Most of your parents aren't even 46 years old. I'm not even 46 years old. That's how many years they had to wait to become a state after Utah became a territory. Okay. And as we now know, it did not become the state of Deseret. It became the state of Utah, but not for 46 years. Okay. So those are the notes. Utah is a territory. Let's escape out of there. Some of the things I'm going to ask you to talk about. First and foremost, go to modules. We have a discussion. That's what the D stands for, is discussion. I got this cool little, nope, where's it at? Right there. A discussion. Okay. Now, when we go to the discussion, it asks you to answer this question. That was awkward. Okay, here we go. What did slavery have to do with Utah becoming a state or a territory? Okay, if we go back to our notes, it's right here on page 137. Okay, this first paragraph. In fact, I think it tells you, read the first paragraph on page 137. Go ahead and answer that in the reply box and then hit submit. Okay, next on the modules is a little activity. That's what the A stands for. In this case, it's going to be kind of a fun little activity. When you go to the activity, there's actually going to be a Google slide for you to work on. Just work on this Google slide, okay? And that's what I'll show you what this is what the Google slide looks like. It has that picture from page 136 on it with all 9 states. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to use Google on your Chromebook, and you're going to look at maps of Wyoming, Colorado, Nevada, Oregon, Idaho, California, Arizona, New Mexico. And you're going to pick one community that would fall in the state of Deseret. We're going to pretend like the state of Deseret became a thing. And I want you to find communities that are in Colorado, in Wyoming, in Oregon, in Idaho, in Nevada, in California, okay, that would become, that would be in the state of Deseret. Okay, we'll do one as an example. Let's look at this. Anybody ever heard of the community Las Vegas? It's about right here where my cursor is. Would it be in the state of Deseret? Oh, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to type Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay. But then the other instruction says put an X on the map. where that community is. This is how you do this, okay? Pay attention. You're going to go up to insert. You can do it one of two ways. You can put a couple lines. You can also put a shape. I don't know if there's an X shape. I guess you could use one of those shapes. But here's the easiest way, I think. You go down here to word art. Go to insert, word art, type the letter X, enter. It's going to show up right here. The picture. You can move it around. That's why I like it. I'm going to make it black. Actually, I'm going to make it red. Actually, I'm going to make it blue. I'm going to make it whatever color I want. I'm going to size it down to wherever I want. I'm going to come down here and put it where I think Las Vegas is. Boom. Okay. And then you're going to do the same thing for all the other states. Okay. For example, let's say I decided to do Flagstaff for Arizona. Anybody ever heard of Flagstaff? One G. Flagstaff, 2 Fs, Arizona. Okay. Well, now I can just go make a copy of my X if I want. I can hit Control C, Control V, and I'll make a copy of it. Or if I want to do the whole process again, I'm going to insert, down to word art, hit an X, hit enter. Okay. And then I can move it around. Flagstaff is give or take right over yonder ways. Right there. We'll say right there. You'll know better than me. I'm going to make that one red. Okay. Anyway, you should, at the end of the day, have 9 X's, including the one I already have for you, plus the name of the community. Okay. I want to see where these communities are. So that's how you do that. Insert, word art, X, color it, shape it, and go with it. I'm going to erase those. I'm giving you an example. I'll leave Monticello in there. Okay. So that is the, now be careful because you can move this X. It's not permanent. So be careful. If you just want to copy and paste that one, you can too. That'd probably be the easiest. Just copy and paste the Monticello X. All right, that's a little activity. Now, the last set is the questions. This is where we're going to do some writing because we got to do some writing. It's part of the curriculum. The questions you have to answer are simple. There are 4 questions. 1, why didn't the Mormons living in Salt Lake want their area and home controlled by Congress? Okay, that's on page 136. Who did the Mormons appoint as their leaders and who was appointed governor? It's also on page 136. Explain Henry Clay's compromise on page 137. And using pick number 2, that's this one right here in your notes. Pick number 2, explain the different privileges a state has over a territory. Right here. 4 things that make it a big deal, being a state versus a territory. That's what you're responsible for this week. Everything's due on Friday, April 3rd. I hope all is well. Hope you're all finding yourself to be entertained during this crazy pandemic. And if you're not feeling entertained, then watch this video 2 or 3 times over and again just to fill the hours. But that's probably not what you want to do. So anyway, if you have any questions, give me an email, shoot me an email, give me a call. Stop by in groups of less than 10, preferably. If there's anything I can do to help you find more success, be glad to do that. Like I said, I'm here in a lonely, lonely classroom without the entertainment of you students. So anyway, this will become available Friday morning. So hope you are doing well and God bless.